In fact, the most studies that I have seen indicate that there are negative effects, negative consequences to having rent control. That you do end up with communities that slowly start deteriorating. The house prices react so they don't go up as much. So valuations suffer. You have fewer and fewer apartments being provided. My name is Brent Ambrose. I'm the Jason and Julie Borrelli Faculty Chair in Real Estate and Professor at Penn State. Rent control is a policy that a local government enacts to essentially limit the amount that a landlord can increase your rent. And so instead of the rent being set by market forces, supply and demand, rents can only go up a set percentage that would be determined by the authority, the local government or the control board that is setting those guidelines. He ran on a platform of rent freezes. So he wants to freeze all rent increases across in the rent stabilized community, which is not all units in New York City. You have to be within the rent control stabilization program, but he wants to freeze rent increases. As most economists will argue, rent control, rent stabilization, rent freezes are essentially a mandate against market forces. The market is setting supply and demand. That's setting rent levels. If supply goes up and demand is not going up, rent comes down. If lots of people want to live in a location and supply is limited, rents are going to go up. And that's just the market at work. And that's how we allocate resources in a capitalistic type society. By mandating that you cap rents, that you freeze them at a certain level, essentially you've artificially constrained the market at work. And that will lead to the landlords not building new units, so it's going to ultimately limit supply. It will cause an incentive for landlords to disinvest in their properties. So as properties age, they start to wear out. You're not going to invest in fixing them up, doing renovations, maintenance, those sorts of things, and you'll see the quality of the units declining over time. Well, I find it misguided that we are engaged in these programs to try to limit the market reaction, whereas if we truly want to solve the affordable housing problem, which is what this is intended to do, right? I mean, there's no doubt that the rent increase limitations, rent stabilization, rent freezes are designed to make housing more affordable. And it's a reaction to housing affordability problems. The way to solve that problem, though, is simply to increase the supply. And the best way to do that is to reduce the regulations that are limiting supply. So without having lower regulatory barriers to encourage more development, we're just going to see more people leaving New York because it's become less and less affordable and there's less and less units being available for people to live in. So we studied rent control or rent stabilization, as it's known, in New York City. We looked at how landlords are not supposed to increase rents above a certain percentage amount per year, but the enforcement mechanism is based on the tenants knowing that their unit is in this rent stabilization program, and knowing that their rent increases that the landlord is imposing on them are above the level that's allowed, and thus trying to sue essentially to prevent that from happening. And we find that actually there's a large percentage of people who are overcharged, that so the landlords are not actually following the rent control or rent stabilization guidelines as set by the New York City government. But if they can establish that those things have been violated, then they have to go before the rent control board and try to essentially, sort of like a court type setting, to get the landlord to reverse the rent increase. So it's a relatively complicated process that most tenants don't know how to navigate.